Sometimes information doesn't go the way you're expecting it to go, and that is the case with the information that we got today, or rather with the potential information. A few days ago, a concept artist for Sea of Thieves posted a huge portfolio of his Sea of Thieves art on a website called ArtStation. That website post was later found by a Reddit user and was posted on the Sea of Thieves Reddit. The user just posted one of the concepts that he found in there, but there's actually a whole goldmine of potential content in those files, in those images that we're gonna look at today. The artist in question is Paul Cartwright. I will link his ArtStation down below as well, and all of these images are his work. All of this art is his. What has to be understood in the context of concept art is it is really just that. It is a concept. Is it something that was maybe proposed by a rare member that he should draw up for them? Or is it something where he was just testing around to see how it would look like and then showed it to rare and they would say, hey, this could fit into the game or this couldn't. So nothing in this is guaranteed to ever be in the game, and I'm sure many of the things here will never make it into the game. On the other hand, a concept artist typically doesn't work on something that has nothing to do with the game, so there is a good chance at least some of these features will eventually end up in the game. And as such, we'll talk about those potential features today, as well as a poll regarding more features for Sea of Thieves that was posted on the forums a while ago and has a result now. Let's begin with the first image. What you see here are 3 pirates looting a chest and another pirate in the background. Most of this is not too special, most of the things here are already in the game. One thing that is interesting is that the pirate in the background is holding 2 pistols. If that is an indication of a new feature is rather doubtful, as every weapon has to be balanced against the other ones, and this would basically mean that if you had 2 pistols, they would do half the damage of the flintlock or something like that. It would still be cool style-wise nonetheless, but I'm not sure if it will happen. Another thing that is worth pointing out is one pirate holding a torch here. Not only is he holding a torch, he's also holding a weapon at the same time. Again, this could be done for stylistic purposes, because generally the idea is to only be able to use one kind of item at the same time, but as it stands, we don't have torches in the first place. What's very interesting is that there's another piece of art online, which is very similar to this in how it's set up, just with different characters. And there you neither have the dual-wielding pirate, you have skeletons instead, nor you have a pirate holding the torch is on the wall instead. So maybe this is a more realistic version for how things are in-game. Next up, we have a bunch of concepts for faces. There will be quite a few of those. What you will generally see is that there are tons of features that are not used in the game, hairstyles, all kinds of bandanas, beards and more. But there are also some things that we don't have in the game at all, which are interesting to talk about. On the first pirate we see a pipe, which would be an interesting accessory. Across many of the pirates we actually see different piercings, some on the nose or on the ear, but multiple of them, and then you have some on the lip and more. We also see a lot of tattoos across their heads, often bald pirates having tattoos on their head, something that I think we don't have in game yet unless I've been super unlucky with the pirate generator so far. There's also a bunch of concepts for Japanese or at least Asian pirates that haven't made it into the game in this style yet, which would be interesting to see if later on more ethnicities will be added, which we also see on the following concept art. We do have some darker pirates in the game already, but they are, for example, still missing the hairstyles that we see here. The images after that are tons more concept art for characters, showing how different characters can look in all sizes and shapes, and some interesting gimmicks on there as well, like for example a guy having a spoon in his ear. I don't think that one will make it into the game, I would be surprised, but you never know. Something that I find very interesting is that there seems to be some sort of war paint as well. It looks different from the tattoos in its style, and I think it kind of looks cooler, and I would like to see that in game. Maybe even as something temporary that you can remove later or that goes off if you go into the water. It would be cool to have your whole crew put on war paint and then board an enemy ship at the same time. Aside of the heavy scarring that we see on some of the concept art, this pirate in particular here also has pimples on top of that and a whole ton of piercings. I think it would be interesting to see some less polished pirates at the game. In the moment, all of the pirates do look rather clean, even if they have beards and stuff like that. So having them look a little bit more sick or a little bit more worn out by the sea could be really cool. Maybe even add a tan, depending on how long they've been in the sun. What I found really interesting about these concept arts is that there was variation for the eye patches. In one case, the pirate doesn't even have an eye patch and just has a blind eye instead, and the other one has a bandana covering his eye. There's also a pirate with an eyebrow piercing. I don't know who would want that, but you know, whatever you're into. In this image we see a walking cane, either as something that would increase your movement speed by a little bit while equipped, or as just a cosmetic item. This could be a great addition to the game. What could be an even greater addition are new weapons. Not only do we see a katana here, which could really just be a re-visualized cutlass, but we also see some completely new weapon, some sort of hook on a stick. Also, we once again see the dual-wielded weapons. And talking about hooks on a stick, we can take that a little bit further as well with this one. This guy has a hammer with a hook on the stick on the other side, which would once again be a completely new weapon, more like a heavy melee weapon, maybe with a slightly longer range. Not only that, he also wears a skull belt on top of that and seems to have a physique that's not even in the game yet. He seems to be big and really buff at the same time, whereas most of the current big models are simply just big. There is the potential that this image also indicates a potential weapon, somebody swinging an anchor, though I think that's rather unlikely and it's probably more a stylistic element. There are some interesting accessories here though. On one hand there is some sort of scarf, as well as multiple gold bracelets. These two images show how the artist pictured the pirates in the game to develop over time, basically based on their experiences and their voyages. And I think it would be really cool to see more of that development as well. At the moment you kind of start with your default character and everything that changes are some accessories as well as your clothing. It's not like your character could change as a whole and basically have marks from their adventures. I'm not sure if this will be added, or you can just accessorize better later on if you have sufficient funds. Either it's fine with me as long as we can actually get to these kinds of pirates as they're seen in the second picture. But we have more than just concepts for pirate styles. There are also environments that we haven't seen so far. One of those are these pillars, which I don't think are in the game in any place yet, and which I think look pretty cool, even though they may not have a deeper function for now, unless this is something where an event could take place later. Likewise, there's this outpost on a rock, which looks really cool in my opinion. You could basically only reach this through a long ladder on the other side, and I don't know if the hook would be good for anything, but probably not, because the mechanic would just be too individual for that one outpost. But I think having a super secluded outpost where you can anchor right next to it but have to climb up a long way would be really nice. And that brings us to the, in my opinion, coolest concepts in this whole list, the ship concepts. The first one here is one for a floating tavern. I have no idea how this would function exactly, as at the moment the taverns don't really even have a purpose, and it would be kind of confusing to have to search it first, but it could definitely make for some cool stuff. Maybe you would have some voyages to that floating tavern, and you would have to, for example, trade in animals there, but they would give you a much higher value if you find that particular ship to reward you for searching it up in the first place. I would honestly love if you could turn your own ship into something like this as well, though I doubt that will be the case, as unfortunate as that is. And then there are different concepts for ships that I have no idea what the purpose of them will be. One guess that I have might be that these are possibly not ships for players, but rather ships for some sort of enemies that sail the seas, and this is the way you can tell them apart from the normal ships, because really they look more gimmicky than anything else. The first one is kind of a float. This could possibly be used if your ship is sunk to maybe get away, because it really isn't a full ship, it just has some barrels and some sails, and doesn't have anything on board that could be utilized during your journey. Whereas the other ship seems to be more of a functional ship, but works completely different from anything we've seen. The steering is at the front, and the ship is not being moved by a sail, but rather by a huge balloon. It also doesn't have a cannon at the side, or two cannons, but rather one cannon at the back, which it seems to use to accelerate as well. I would imagine if this ship somehow ends up in the game, that it would be incredibly fast, what would be stopped in its tracks super easily by simply shooting the balloon, and I don't know how that would be balanced out against anything at all, but it's at least a fun concept. There are even more concepts on the ArtStation website, which I didn't show here because they didn't really bring anything new, but if you want to check them out, the link again will be down below in the description. But then there was also the poll for more content on the Sea of Thieves forums. This poll had a variety of different things that people could vote for, what they would like to see most in the game, and the votes are in. The highest vote is actually for ship types. I think it's mostly people wanting a ship for 3 players. I'm a bit surprised about this, considering I feel that maybe content should be prioritized over another ship, because if there's no more to do than before and you just have an extra ship in between, I'm not sure how much that's worth, but it's what most people want. Then the second most voted one, on the other hand, are quest types, which in my opinion is very, very understandable, give people more to do. Third one is map size and exploration. I think especially the exploration part is important here, because the map is not small, there are enough places to go to, but in many places you just can't do enough yet. The third point is NPC enemies and factions. I think that is very understandable as well. Sometimes the world is still a bit barren, and I think even some NPC pirates or something could freshen it up a little bit. The fourth and fifth place go to a PvP bounty system and to fishing. Regarding the bounty system, I got an interesting email from a viewer named James, who proposed a bounty system that's not quite what other people think it is. Most people think that a bounty system should just be a bounty for a particular pirate that maybe sunk you, and then there's a prize on his head. What he proposed would be much easier implemented and would generally reward PvP more. He said we could simply have a system where you get a kill 3 to 10 enemy pirates achievement, and when you basically have killed some pirates, then you can go to an outpost, to a faction for this PvP thing, and hand in the kills basically, rewarding you based on the number of pirates you killed, and the same thing could be done for ships as well. What's important here is that you would lose your entire streak when you die, so you'd have to play well and you have to play smart and not just simply take every fight in order to get these rewards for that. I think that would be rather cool and very easy to implement, so I like it. And with that, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope this was interesting and insightful and gave you some more outlook on what could come into the game. Again, I want to repeat that nothing of this is guaranteed. These are concept arts, and sometimes concept arts just lead nowhere, sometimes they lead somewhere. But I wanted to show it to you guys because I think it's something that you should at least be aware of. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out my other Sea of Thieves videos, which will be linked right here. There are quite a few by now, especially the combats one I can recommend for those of you who want to see how to improve at the game. And obviously a subscription is always appreciated as well. See you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.